Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu, and I'm back with another episode of Spoiler Sundays. So this is the time of the week where I take a look at all of the Digimon spoilers that happened this week and, well, talk about them. So we knew that we were going to be getting the rest of the Jesmon and Ragnarlordmon starter decks, so we knew that we had 5 cards missing, and, well, we got all 5 cards spoiled this week. But on top of that, we also get some BT10 spoilers in terms of new mechanics and new cards, just because BT10 is going to be just around the corner for Japan, so they need to start rolling those out so that way everyone knows what's going to be in the sets for when the set actually gets released. So that just gives us a lot to talk about. So starting off with the starter deck spoilers and wrapping that up, first, we have Durandamon. So Durandamon is going to be a level 5 red Digimon, can digivolve off of red or black at level 4s for 3, nothing too special there, stats are comparable to what we saw with the Ludamon line. Then what this card is actually doing is he has 2 abilities, one native to him, one as an inheritable. So the ability that's native to him is during your turn, when this Digimon would digivolve into a Digimon from our hand with Legend Arm in its traits, or a black Digimon, then we get to reduce the cost of that digivolution by 1. So it's just making going up into our level 6s a little bit easier, so that way we could go into our level 7 a little bit easier. Then his inheritable ability is definitely playing along with that theme, where his inheritable skill states that at the end of your turn, we may DNA digivolve this Digimon and one of our other Digimon into a Digimon from our hand by paying its DNA digivolution cost. So it's just allowing us to, again, easily go up the stages and be able to get into Ragnarlordmon very quickly and very efficiently. Next, we have a brand new option from the Jesmon starter deck in the form of Earthquake, Lightning, Fire, Father. So what this card is doing is meant to be played within the Jesmon deck, but it actually has some really solid playability outside of the Jesmon deck. So this is a black option that costs 7, so Jesmon's ordinarily a red Digimon. We know inside of the starter deck there is a little bit of red-black synergy, and Genkumon is another black Digimon to be able to make use of this card within the starter deck. But the fact that it's a black option that costs 7 means that it could be used outside of the starter deck as well, in something like 3 Musketeers or just any generic black deck. Then it also has some really solid playability with various other decks because of its ability where we could ignore the color requirements as long as we have a Digimon with Huckmon, Sistermon, or Royal Knights on our field. So that way we have even more ways to be able to play this card. So again, most of the synergy is supposed to be in line with the Jesmon starter deck and the Jesmon deck as a whole, just because it's more directly referring to Huckmon and Sistermon to be able to ignore its color requirements, but the fact that we could use this with various other Royal Knights decks is something really interesting to think about. On top of the fact that we have 2 colors to be playing around with and 2 color synergies we could try to take advantage of. Then on top of all of that, what this card actually is doing is going to be a big hard removal card similar to Gaia Force. So what this card is doing is it has the main ability where one of the opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 13 or less gets deleted. So this is just, again, another big hard removal card with the security ability of activating its main, so that way it's even a powerful card to use coming out of the security as well to try to deal with the opponent's large problematic Digimon that we might be facing. Next, we have a new version of Sakuramon. So the interesting thing to note is the previous version of Sakuramon was a red Digimon, and we know that the Durandamon line is a red line, but the fact that they made this egg black is a little bit interesting considering we know that the Ludamon line is, well, the black line, and that's because the red is more aggressive and black is more defensive. But regardless of that little inconsistency there, this is a pretty good card to be playing around with the Ragnarlordmon and Legend Arms starter deck, more specifically because of his inheritable skill, where during your turn once per turn, when one of your effects plays another Digimon with Legend Arms in its traits, then we get to gain 1 memory. So we have a couple of different effects that we know in the deck want to be able to play our cards from card effects, and this card just makes those cards even more efficient than they normally would be. And then to wrap up the starter decks, we have 2 more vanilla cards to talk about. The first one is going to be a new version of Skull Maramon. So this isn't really anything too special, it's just another blah vanilla card. Stat-wise, it's a red level 5 that hard plays for 6, evos for 3, and has 9,000 DP. Nothing really too special there. And then the last card is going to be a new version of Gladimon. So Gladimon is a black level 4 Digimon that hard plays for 4, evos for 1, and has 4000 DP. So this is a little bit more interesting because it is a warrior, and we do have some warrior-based synergies that we could try to take advantage of. But again, this just being a blah vanilla card, it doesn't really mean much of anything in terms of the grand scheme of things. But I do think it's an interesting card to take note of because it is playing around with some slightly different stats, and evoing for 1 is usually a good thing on level 4s. Now, before I get into the spoilers in terms of the BT10 spoilers, because we got a lot, we did get some new mechanics that BT10 and some of these cards are going to be playing around with. So understanding these mechanics is going to be really, really important when I'm describing some of these cards because it could be a little bit complicated at times. So first new mechanic we got is going to be the DigiXross ability. So DigiXross X states that on play, we get to place specific cards underneath this card as digivolution sources from our hand or our battle area to be able to reduce the play cost by X for each card placed. To try to make certain Digimon a little bit stronger because of this DigiXross ability, making them easier to hard play for not only just their on-play abilities, but for various of our inheritable effects. Then the secondary ability that we have is going to be the save ability. So the save ability states that we can place this card under one of our tamers. So it's basically a way to just, save our Digimon, store it underneath our tamer to use for the DigiXross ability. So the whole point and theme of what Xwars was about was the tamers had digiloaders. They would load a whole bunch of Digimon into their digivice and then basically have the ability to fuse them almost at will. That was in the show, and I think the save mechanic kind of translates to that nicely, along with the DigiXross ability as we saw earlier, to be able to easily hard play some of our cards and take advantage of the DigiXross ability with the save effect. And then on top of that, we also have Material Save X as the last new ability that we got, where this ability states that when this Digimon leaves the battle area, we get to place X of the listed cards in the DigiXross requirements of this card, which is in the digivolution source of this Digimon, face down under your tamer. So it's just the same thing as the save ability, except it's saving the materials, so that way when the Digimon leaves, we get to save all of his inheritable sources to be able to reuse later for various other Digimon, which again is very thematic of what the show was all about, because, when you get your big fusion card, they're going to eventually have to be broken down, and this just is a good way to save those parts and pieces when that big Digimon is broken down. But as far as the actual BT10 spoilers go, first off, we have a new tamer in the form of Kudo Taiki. So Taiki here is a 3-costed red tamer, and what this card is doing is he has an on-play ability where we get to check the top 4 cards of our deck, add 1 card with cross hearts in its trait among them into our hand, and then 1 Digimon with cross hearts in its traits underneath this tamer, and then the rest go to the bottom. So it's acting as a good consistency tool for the deck to try to find some of our Digimon. We already knew, based on the show, that Taiki was the leader of the cross hearts army, so it only makes sense that a lot of his Digimon that he's going to be playing with have cross hearts in their traits, on top of him having cross hearts in his trait. So he's just a really good card at finding our cards, and then on top of that, he has a secondary ability where during your turn, when we play one of our Digimon with the DigiXross requirements, we get to suspend this tamer, and we could also place cards from underneath your tamer into the evolution source of your DigiXross. So this is just allowing us to use extra inheritable sources for our DigiXrosses to make even more powerful Digimon possible because of the different inheritable abilities they might be having that they want to share with some of our other Digimon. And then a really good card to show off both the Save Materials ability and the DigiXross ability is going to be Shoutmon Cross 4. So Shoutmon Cross 4, stat-wise, is a pretty interesting Digimon because he is a level 4 red and yellow Digimon who could Digivolve for 3 off of red and yellow level 3s if we want to choose to use him that way, or we could hard play him for 9 and he has 8000 DP if we want to do that as well, because he has the DigiXross -2 ability. So the DigiXross -2 ability allows us to shove Shoutmon, Ballistimon, Derurumon, and Starmons from either our hand or battle area as inheritable sources to reduce his play cost by the stated amount. So for shoving all 4 of those underneath, we get to reduce his play cost by 8, making him a hard play for 1, which is really, really powerful considering how strong of a level 4 this Digimon is. On top of the fact that he does also have the Save Materials ability, so when this Digimon does eventually get destroyed, we get to place 2 of the Digimon in his DigiXross requirements as evolution sources to the bottom of one of our tamers. So that way, when he does get deleted, we can at least try to save some of his stack, so that way we could try to reuse them for another DigiXross later on. And then he has an on-play ability, making us actually want to try to hard play the card to draw 2 cards, so hard playing him for 1 and drawing 2 cards is absolutely insane. Yes, it does take a little bit of setup to get that DigiXross ability to make him cost 1, but still, at worst, just helping reduce his play cost makes him a very easy to play level 4 Digimon. Then he does have an end of attack ability where we have to place all of this Digimon's evolution sources to the bottom of one of our tamers to put one of our tamers to the active state, and we get to destroy this Digimon. Next, we got a new version of Shoutmon. So this new version of Shoutmon is a pretty solid Digimon to be playing around with. Stat-wise, he's doing nothing too special, but he does have a nice extra evolution point where we could Digivolve him for 2 on top of a card with cross hearts in its trait for 0. So it's just allowing us to use basically off-color eggs because otherwise he would Digivolve for 0 on top of a red level 2. And then he has a nice on-play ability in case we do just want to hard play him. So we could reveal the top 3 cards of our deck and add 1 Digimon with cross hearts in its trait and 1 tamer from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom in any order. So he's going to be acting very similar to Flamemon all the way back in BT04, acting as a really solid digging tool to try to find some of our parts and pieces. Then he does have a on delete ability of being saved, so that way when he's deleted, we get to put him underneath one of our tamers. And then he does have an inheritable skill that we want to take advantage of as a good inheritable for our Digicrosses, where during your turn, while this Digimon has Shoutmon in its name, then this Digimon gains the Rush ability. So as we just saw with Shoutmon Cross 4, if we hard play him for 1, shove the Shoutmon underneath, then he will have the Rush ability to be able to swing with right away to take advantage of the fact that we're going to be hard playing that card. And this card also is pretty good with some of our other Shoutmons as well from our previous builds of Shoutmon, as a solid inheritable ability to be able to give whatever Shoutmon we want Rush, because we do have more than just the new Shoutmon to be playing around with and the new Shoutmon cross cards to be playing around with. Next up, we have Ballistimon. So Ballistimon is a green level 4 Digimon. Stats aren't anything too special. He evos for 2 off of a level 3 green Digimon. He hard plays for 4 and has 4000 DP. But we could also take advantage of his alternative evolution, where we could Digivolve him on top of a level 3 with cross hearts in its traits for only 2 memory. So not only does he work with just green Digimon in general, but the fact that he wants to be played with cross hearts just kind of doubles down and incentivizes how we want to be using the card. Then on top of that, he has a nice ability where during the opponent's turn, while we have another Digimon or a tamer with cross hearts in its traits on our field, then this Digimon gains the blocker ability. So even though blockers aren't necessarily super great, the fact that we do have a built-in blocker makes him a really good card for us to actually want to use this mechanic. And then he does have a on delete ability of having that save ability that we just saw with Shoutmon. So when he gets deleted, especially for blocking, which is really good, then he's going to be able to go underneath one of our tamers. Then he has a nice inheritable skill to be used for our Digicrosses, where during your turn, while this Digimon has Shoutmon in its name, then this Digimon gains the piercing ability, so it's going to be able to make our Shoutmon crosses even more powerful by having a slew of different abilities for us to utilize. And speaking of trying to toolbox our inheritable abilities for our crosses, next we have Derurumon. So Derurumon is another level 4. It has the same exact stats that we just saw with Ballistimon, except this time it is on a yellow Digimon. So he also can evolve for 2 on top of a cross hearts as an alternative way to Digivolve the card to make him very useful in a cross hearts deck. Then he does have an on-play ability, so we could try to just hard play the card and take advantage of this, and try to ignore the fact that he could have all of these different alternative evolutions, where if you have another Digimon or Tamer with cross hearts in its traits, in play, then one of our opponent's Digimon gets minus 3000 DP until the end of the turn, to act as some easy removal with this on-play ability. Then he, like the others that we saw, does have an on-deletion ability of having the save, so that way when he eventually gets deleted, he gets to go underneath one of our tamer, and he even has an inheritable skill for our Shoutmon to take advantage of when he's used as an inheritable source, where during your turn, while this Digimon has Shoutmon in its name, all of your opponent's security gets minus 2000 DP, so it makes it easier for our Digimon to aggress onto the opponent's security. Next, we have a new version of Starmons. So this Starmons is a yellow level 3. He could digivolve on top of a yellow egg for 0, or we could digivolve him on top of any level 2 that has cross hearts in its traits for 0 as well. So he's like Shoutmon, another card to try to take advantage of the cross hearts trait, but what this card is doing is something very simple by just having the on-delete ability of save. And as we saw with Shoutmon Cross 4, we could line up all of those abilities that we just saw very easily to be able to take advantage of that card to his utmost potential. And what this card is doing for our Shoutmon Cross 4, or just our crosses in general with Shoutmon, is when attacking, if this Digimon has Shoutmon in its name, then we get to draw a card. So we get to make a very powerful Digimon that even adds to the overall consistency thanks to this card. And then to kind of round out the Cross Hearts package that we saw, we have a Digitama in the form of Pikmons. So Pikmons is a Cross Heart Digitama, so we could use Shoutmon on top of this, we could use Starmons on top of this, any level 3 that's going to be taking advantage of those alternative evolution points. But what this card is doing for the Cross Hearts deck is a solid when attacking ability, not limited to once per turn. If this Digimon has Cross Hearts in its trait, then we get to draw one card. Next up, we have a new version of Gaussmon. So this new version of Gaussmon is a blue level 3 Digimon. Stats aren't doing anything too special. He has 1000 DP because he actually wants to be deleted, because his on-delete ability is a pretty decent ability to be played with the Blue Flare army. So the Blue Flare army is going to be another army that's going to be represented in the set based on this card, and his on-delete ability states that we get to play one level 4 Digimon with Blue Flare in its traits from our hand, suspended, without paying its memory cost. So just swinging and being aggressive with this card is what we want to do to be able to play our other Blue Flares. And we actually got revealed a new Digimon for the Blue Flare army to be playing around with, and that's going to be male Bergdramon. So male Bergdramon is a blue level 4 Digimon with the on-play ability, where if we have a Christopher in play, that's going to be the leader and main tamer for the Blue Flare army deck. You get to return one Metal Greymon from your trash to your hand, and if you don't have a Christopher in play, then we get to play one from our hand for free. So Christopher's main Digimon was male Bergdramon and Metal Greymon, so it only makes sense that this card is going to be interacting with both. So that way we could easily line up whatever the Blue Flare deck is trying to do to take advantage of being able to not only get our tamers out easier, but being able to recur our Metal Greymon for whatever he's going to be used for. And then on top of that, even though this card probably wants to be played off of Gaussmon and is going to end up suspended, that's okay because he has the on-delete ability of save, so that way he could go underneath our Christopher. And then this card has an inheritable skill for when we use him with our other Blue Flares, where when we attack once per turn, while this Digimon has Blue Flare in its traits, and your opponent has 2 or more Digimon in play, then one of your opponent's Digimon can't attack or block until the end of the turn, so it's just an alternative way to try to stun the opponent and punish them for just having Digimon in play. Next up, we have a new version of Trouban. So this time, Trouban is actually labeled as a Bagra Army card, and Bagra Army was one of the armies that appeared in the Cross Wars show, and it's nice to see that it's getting represented here in card form. But what this card is doing is he has a pretty interesting ability where during the opponent's turn, once per turn, when an opponent's Digimon or Tamer is played, then we get to discard one of this Digimon's inheritable sources to gain 1 memory. So it's essentially trying to tax the opponent for playing their Digimon or their Tamers, so it's just a pretty interesting card at trying to slow down some of the opponent's actions, thanks to how DigiXross and some of these cards want to be played. Then this card himself has the on-delete ability of being able to save himself, so he'll be able to put himself underneath a tamer. And then his inheritable skill for being used in said DigiXross is during the opponent's turn, When this card is discarded from the inheritable sources by a card effect, then you get to gain 1 memory, further trying to tax the opponent for some of their actions, depending on what our DigiXross cards in the Bagra Army deck is trying to do. And we actually do have a DigiXross for the Bagra Army in the form of Madleomon. So Madleomon has the DigiXross 2 ability where we get to place 1 card with Bagra Army in its traits underneath this card to basically reduce his play cost by 2. So hard playing this level 4 purple Digimon for 3 isn't necessarily that bad, especially since we know that we want to try to tuck Trouban underneath because of his ability where during the opponent's turn once per turn, when the number of cards from the opponent's hand is increased by card effect, by discarding 1 card from this Digimon's digivolution source, your opponent discards cards from their hand equal to the number of cards that were increased. So if they're trying to draw lots of cards, this basically can shut off that level of card draw and force them to discard cards, keeping their hand at a net 0 instead of a net positive, which is generally what you're trying to gain out of card draw abilities. So if we line this up with Trouban to be able to get rid of our Trouban, then we'll also tax whatever card that they're going to be playing or ability that they're going to be playing for trying to draw cards. And he even has a on-delete ability himself of having the save ability, where his inheritable skill for the DigiXrosses is during the opponent's turn. When this card is discarded from the inheritable source by card effect, then you get to gain 1 memory. Same thing as Trouban to try to use for not only just another version of Madleomon to use that DigiXross ability, but probably for other Bagra Army DigiXrosses as well. So it looks like Ballistimon is going to be Angramon's Digitama form. And what this card is doing is he has an inheritable skill where during your turn, once per turn, when a Digimon becomes suspended by a card effect, so, what green generally likes to do is suspend the opponent's Digimon down, so we have easy ways to be able to trigger this ability, and the reward for doing that is this Digimon is going to gain plus 1000 DP for the turn, so our Digimon can be a little bit stronger to be able to beat up the opponent's Digimon. And then we finally get the Angerman that we've been waiting for, so it looked like in BT08 we got Gamamon, BT09, we got Jellymon, and now in BT10, we get the Angramon line. So Angramon here is doing something very similar to what we saw with the Gamamon, where during your turn, once per turn, when we play a green tamer, then we get to draw a card. So it's essentially replacing the tamer that we're hard playing, and that's pretty good to try to keep our hand as full as we possibly can. Then he has a nice inheritable skill that's going to probably be paired up with his evolution line, where during your turn, once per turn, when an opponent's Digimon becomes suspended, then we get to draw a card. So green has access at even more card draw, which is something they kind of were lacking before. So Angerman is already looking to be a pretty good card, not only for whatever he's probably going to be doing in his evolution line, but for green in general. Next up, we have Ruli. So it's no surprise that we're going to be seeing Ruli here, just because she's following that pattern that we saw with all of the other Ghost Games characters. So Ruli is going to be a green memory fixing tamer, so if our memory is ever less than 3, she'll just always hard set it to 3, so that's pretty good. And she's also going to be playing around with our Angramon and our high-level Digimon, thanks to her ability where during your turn, when you attack with a Digimon that has an Angerman in its name or is a level 5 or higher, we get to suspend this tamer to suspend one of the opponent's Digimon with 5000 DP or less, so that way we could try to draw extra cards with our Angerman and to be able to beat up that Digimon, because we're going to be suspending it if we're able to have multiple Digimon on our field. But the fact that we actually do have a tamer to try to help consistently control the opponent's field is pretty nice to have. Next up, we have Simbari Angramon. So this is a pretty interesting card, considering unlike its other counterparts, it actually has an inheritable skill and no ability native to it. So by counterparts, I mean just other teammates in the Ghost Games characters, but regardless, this is a pretty solid inheritable ability where during your turn, once per turn, when an opponent's Digimon becomes suspended, then we get to gain 1 memory. So just being able to use our full Angramon line with whatever higher level Digimon will be allowing us to draw some extra cards, gain some extra DP, and be able to gain some extra memory to make our plays even more efficient. So I think this whole line for green is looking to be really good. And then we also got an option card that fits on theme with what Angramon is trying to do in the form of Pion Dump. So Pion Dump is a 2-costed green option card with the main ability where one of our Digimon gains the piercing ability this turn. Then if we have a Digimon with Angramon in its name or an Angerman in its digivolution source, then we could just suspend one of the opponent's Digimon. So it's acting very similar to Needle Spray in the fact that it's going to be trying to suspend one of the opponent's Digimon down, but we also do get the upside of giving whatever we're going to be using to try to beat up said suspended Digimon the piercing ability to actually be able to deal damage. Then this card also has a security ability that's very similar to Needle Spray, where we get to suspend one of the opponent's Digimon down and then add this card into our hand to then be able to use its main ability at a later time, making for a very solid generic green package. And then the last card that we got spoiled this week is going to be Bray Claw. So Bray Claw is a 1-costed red option card that's going to be pretty good for a more Gamamon based deck. So what this card is doing is it has the main ability where one of our Digimon gets plus 2000 DP for the turn. Then we get to place one Digimon with Gamamon in its name from our hand to the bottom of one of our Digimon's digivolution source, and we get to draw a card, essentially replacing the card that we're losing to our inheritable sources. So we do have some really solid inheritable abilities that we want to try to take advantage of off of some of our Gamamons. So it's just a pretty good card at just trying to fill up our inheritable sources and interact with our Gamamons, because it also has the security ability where we get to play a Gamamon from our hand or trash out for free. So it's acting as a security Digimon when it's going to be checked in our security. But yeah, we got a lot of cards spoiled this week, and I'm excited to see where the rest of BT10 is going to go, considering we didn't really see anything super spicy outside of the introduction of these new mechanics. And I think these new mechanics just give us more ways to play the game, and that's kind of just what they've been doing, is having us have alternative ways to be able to play our Digimon to make them even more effective than they've ever been before. And I think all of that just makes the game even more exciting, because of all of these new possibilities and tech and tools that we have not only for current and existing decks, but for new decks to be able to be formed as well. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.